I think, an unexpected development and a true friendship developing there, which I think is important. And you saw that.
Ella es Sandra, mi compañera nueva, y ella es la Vale, la que predijo que iba a trabajar en Itaú. Las cartas no fallan.
So I don't know if you can hear me, but join the conversation. Stay tuned. Dos, dos, tres. Dos, tres. Sí. Dos, dos, tres.
¿Quieren?
Mi trabajo es fácil porque uso Click. Así es como llevo el control de todas mis tareas. Empiezo vaciando todo lo que tengo que hacer en una vista de lista. Después, asigno una prioridad y una fecha de entrega para mantener todo en orden. Creo estados personalizados para organizar mi progreso exactamente como quiero. Me gusta agregar el campo de elementos de acción. Tengo a mis compañeros de equipo como observadores para que estén al tanto. ClickUp hace que el trabajo sea fácil. Haz clic en el enlace para crear tu espacio de trabajo gratis.
The Joint Chiefs of Staff Committee of Pakistan and others were involved, and by the end of that Shangri-La dialogue, it gave every appearance that those countries stepped back from the brink. And a quarter of a century later, at this year's Shangri-La dialogue, we were honored by the keynote address of President To Lam, and I'd like to just quote to remind you all some of the points he made. He said, "Many crises erupt not simply because of conflicting interests, but because the parties concerned lack trusted channels for communication, lack space for de-escalation, and lack mechanisms capable of steering confrontation back to dialogue. The Asia-Pacific must therefore treat preventive diplomacy as a strategic capability, not merely as an improvised response after crises have already erupted. We need more diverse channels of consultation, more agile mediation mechanisms, incident contact mechanisms, quasi-formal exchange platforms. The objective is to create credible diplomatic off-ramps before parties become drawn into spirals of escalation that heighten the risk of conflict." And this morning in the question and answer session with Secretary of War Peter Hegseth, he made the point to military cooperation, but not just at the ministerial level, but consultations at the operator level in order to avoid those misunderstandings. And against the background of that experience from the first SLD to the current SLD and the interest of our keynote speaker on Friday night to talk about different forms of conflict mediation, it's an honor that we have today to deliver a special address and then have a conversation with me and the audience, President Ramos Horta of Timor-Leste, who almost exactly 30 years ago won the Nobel Peace Prize. And we've asked him to provide his thoughts on conflict resolution in this special address, especially given his own background in having conducted successful mediation between parties in conflict. President, the special address podium is there, and we invite you to address us this afternoon. Thank you, sir.
Sir John and Dr. Bastian, first I have to say I have a longer speech, but I have cut off quite a few, so I will skip to keep to the, I hope, less than 10 minutes, give more time for Q&A. More than ever, the Shangri-La dialogue matters today at this very hour. It is one of the few places where the language of security and diplomacy meet side by side. Both are needed. Let me start a few words on what we all know. Our main international security architecture, the United Nations Security Council. It is moribund, sclerotic, irrelevant. It is a sad mirror of the state of the world today. And I'm not even sure that as expansion, as it has been of the Security Council membership, both permanent and non-permanent in itself, and the elimination of the veto power in itself would render it to be effective, credible guardian of international security. I think it will require much more than that. We all routinely speak of preserving the rules-based order, but rules do not survive because they are printed in charters. They survive because the states choose restraint, consistency, choose dialogue to resolve grievances. Sustained security cannot come from the barrel of a gun, from coercion and fear. When these failures expose the most vulnerable to further harm, it undermines the laws and institutions we have all created over the decades to prevent wars and resolve them when they happen. Governments have a duty to protect their country's sovereignty, territorial integrity. But above all, governments have the sacred responsibility to protect its own people. their physical being, and their right to live in freedom and dignity. Our independence, my country's independence, was built through years of patient, practical diplomacy, played by many different people, by ourselves, by dedicated people from the United Nations, and by the Indonesian side, that gradually turned old wounds into new bonds. We never demonized the other side. We did not disrespect their faith. We were set free when Indonesians themselves freed themselves in 1998 and 1991, and they embarked on a promising process of reform and democracy. Today, there are no two countries that are have closer relations than Timor-Leste and Indonesia, a model of reconciliation and partnership. We show that history need not imprison our hearts and minds. History must not imprison nations. Wise leadership and dialogue can turn conflict into coexistence into friendship and trust. ASEAN is a good example. It was not born in a tranquil epoch. We all remember. It was born from the ashes of the Korean War first, then the wars in Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, then Southeast Asians faced Maoist insurgencies. They had to live with colonial scars from the past, Cold War rivalries, ideological madness. Its success was not that it eliminated differences. It did something more modest and perhaps more profound. It planted a banyan tree, and under its foliage, leaders gathered and plotted the end of wars. Over decades, ASEAN brought together nations that lived and suffered from all of the above. Through the Treaty of Amity and Cooperation, it affirmed principles that sound simple but were revolutionary when practiced. The resulting trust between ASEAN nations has delivered vast mutual benefits. ASEAN is not heaven on earth. Achieving consensus is frustratingly slow. Diplomacy can disappoint. Disillusionment can produce cynicism. Security challenge persists. The Myanmar civil war is a stain on ASEAN's otherwise impressive catalogue of successes. Nevertheless, in a world where bridges are being burned faster than they are built, ASEAN provides lessons on how sustained dialogue, engagement can safeguard against conflict and deliver shared benefits. These are the thoughts of despair and hope that came to me as I watched the abysmal failure of global leadership, resulting in the devastating wars in Ukraine, Gaza, Lebanon, Iran, consequences of which reverberate across the world. And then in my remarks, I talk a bit about South China Sea. How can we exercise preventive diplomacy to prevent any escalation of claims and counterclaims and the tensions in that region? May the crisis in the Strait of Hormuz remind us not to be complacent in dealing with potential flashpoints. I might risk words that dreamers use, like if I present an idea that, well, is naive, is romantic, and I would think that everyone surrounding South China Sea, everyone is interested in preserving this peace and stability. Apart from the code of conduct that is being negotiated patiently by all sides, someone must have the audacity to declare the South China Sea a zone of peace. Not necessarily that everyone has to abandon their legitimate historical legal claims, but do not allow these claims to freeze initiatives that would, in fact, gain for everybody more confidence and then lessen tensions. All should agree on a zone of peace, free of artificial islands and military bases. Maybe these artificial islands and military bases turn into accessible hosting oceanographic and marine life studies. Anyway, we have researched the alternatives to such cooperation all too well. While we finding more money to prepare for war, we struggle to find money to prevent the conditions that make conflict more likely. A missile can deter an adversary, but cannot hold back the sea. A tank can defend a border, but it cannot restore a failed harvest. A submarine can patrol an ocean, but it cannot rebuild trust in a society displaced by disaster and conflict. The sea also can be a mirror for us to review a range of deep assumptions. When we talk of the blue economy, for instance, it is not simply one more agenda item to quantify our natural resources, but a transformational rethinking that sees narrow sovereignty placed among connected oceans and taking part in broader notions of prosperity. Xanana Guzmão, our Prime Minister and Special Representative for the Blue Economy in Timor-Leste, leading our ninth constitutional government in adopting this aim, and I quote, to transform our sea, which is central to our identity, economy, and geopolitics, into a source of sustainable development, inclusion, and environmental resilience. I was reminded of this while recently attending the Melanesian Ocean Summit in Papua New Guinea, where leaders from across the Pacific again highlighted that climate change is a direct threat to economic stability, food system, social cohesion, and even state viability. For smaller and middle powers, choosing resilience cannot be an ultimatum between blocs, politics, and isolation, between nostalgia for an order that was never perfect and their surrender to a world governed by brute force. Coalition must be built issue by issue on climate finance, on energy security, on marine health, food resilience, disaster preparedness, digital governance, and peace mediation. To put it bluntly, the third path must be both principled and pragmatic. I've known it and traveled it firsthand. The emergence of conflict can erode years of progress towards sustainable development. We must therefore pay renewed attention to addressing the conditions that drive conflict and to preserving the mechanisms that prevent them. ASEAN and Timor-Leste's unique story within its constellation hold key lessons for patient, practical, and effective diplomacy. ASEAN's achievement in this respect is not that it made all countries think alike. It has not erased differences in history, politics, size, or strategic outlook. It created habits of cooperation despite those differences. Meeting by meeting, agreement by agreement, project by project, ASEAN has shown that it can be constructed. It has shown that dialogue can become trade, trade can become interdependence, interdependence can become a shared interest in peace. If we're serious about a third path with impact underpinned by practical diplomacy, then we make it visible in concrete areas. A region with more weapons but failing grids, vulnerable coastlines, fragile food systems, and unaffordable energy is not secure. It is merely waiting for the next shock. And we must apply rules consistently. Selectivity corrodes trust. When rules appear to protect some and not others, smaller states begin to wonder whether the language of order is really only the language of power. A rules-based order only survives when countries see that restraint, fairness, and peaceful settlement are practiced, not only preached. I conclude, let us therefore leave this dialogue with a clear sense of what peace requires. It requires defense, yes, but it also requires prevention. It requires national strength, but also practical cooperation across borders through patient diplomacy. It requires rules, but also the trust that gives rules life. Practical patient diplomacy can build this trust. Let us be committed to maintain security, but devoted to building the condition for a zone of peace in South China Sea, for all Southeast Asia, for all of Asia, for the world. May God, of all humanity, shower leaders with wisdom and compassion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I think we were all moved by your thought that history should not imprison our minds, and your argument that managing climate change is actually an act in preventive diplomacy. Just to begin, I'd like to ask you a question related to current events. We see all this tension in the Middle East, and there is almost a rotation of prospective mediators. We've had Field Marshal Munir of Pakistan. We've had Prime Minister Mohammed Al Thani of Qatar. In an earlier stage, Saeed Badr Abu Saidi of Oman. There have been others involved. What is your view on the right mix between regional mediators and mediators that come from outside the region? And how can trust be built in these circumstances? Yeah. What is your best practice advice?
Yeah, when I watch from afar, and the flow of mediators dealing with Middle East situation. It looked like a stampede. They bump into each other probably. And I remember some of the very dedicated, discreet, professional diplomats, mediators. One whom I call him my mentor is Lakhdar Brahimi, who was mediator in Iraq, Afghanistan, and then last he was called for Syria. Before him was Kofi Annan, who was called for Syria, was appointed by the League of Arab States and the UN. I think the first time that two major institutions have one mediator. But Kofi Annan did not survive 3 months. He gave up. Then came Lakhdar Brahimi. He was there for 3 years. At the end of the 3 years, he went public on television, apologized to people of Syria that he was not able to settle the conflict. But the Iran-Iraq war that lasted 8 years, resulting in more than 1 million people killed. Remember, chemical, biological weapons were used by Saddam Hussein on the Shias in Basra, on Iranian Kurdish people. And yet, it took them 8 years, the two sides, to realize no one could win this war. And at that time, Iran and Iraq, there were two strong leaders there. One on the Iraqi side, Saddam Hussein, the other was Khomeini. And because when they decided, and that was few mediators, but they were all in coordination. Algeria.
I think an unexpected development and a true
I was asked about Syria, in the beginning of the war. And I said, I will not make a politically correct statement. I will say this war will last forever. At least 500,000 people will die. And only when the sides in Syria are exhausted, they will sue for peace. But the problem is in Syria, the problem in Syria is unlike Iran and Iraq, where there are two leaders, strong. When they decide for peace, it happens. In Syria, you have more than 100 armed groups involved, many regional actors involved. So it will go on till today. And so there is no blueprint really, except that the mediator has to be trusted by all sides, has to be hugely competent, experienced, with a lot of sang-froid, and otherwise he or she will not survive the pressure from every direction.
Let me take 3 or so interventions, principally from our young leaders, because I think it's the importance that the new generation gets engaged in discovering best practice here. Could I please first call on Seksan Anachiat from Thailand?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. President, for your speech. I want to know your views on ASEAN. Do you think ASEAN needs reform? If so, what is the most urgent part of ASEAN to be reformed? Thank you.
We'll take 3 or 4 and then come back for your thoughts. So from Seychelles, Angelique Pouponneau.
Good afternoon and Excellency. Thank you very much for your inspirational special address. Small island developing states are often placed in this space of having to choose a side, especially in this particularly fragmented world. What country or how do you see the role of small island developing states navigating these troubling waters? Thank you.
And from Indonesia, Azifa Astrina.
Yeah, thank you. I also have a question about ASEAN. And as we all know, ASEAN has historically been effective in de-escalation, but less effective in enforcement. So in the context of intensifying maritime competition, do you think ASEAN need a stronger institutional mechanism for maritime governance? Or would that risk undermining the flexibility that has been sustained in regional stability? Thank you.
And from Myanmar, Kin Kwa Ki.
Thank you, Mr. President. My question is, what do you think of ASEAN 5-point consensus on Myanmar? And how can ASEAN do better on Myanmar issue? Thank you.
So, Mr. President, essentially 3 groups of questions. How should ASEAN be reformed to be better in conflict resolution? How can small island states contribute to an effective strategy of cooperation? And how can we more imaginatively address the Myanmar problem? Over to you, sir.
Well, we just became a member of ASEAN a few months ago. I don't want to be with many ASEAN member states here. I don't want to say anything about reform, and they will, at least privately, politely, they will say, what do you know about ASEAN? Well, I actually know a lot. And I first went to Indonesia in June 1974. I'm probably the only person alive among ASEAN leaders who met the famous Indonesian foreign minister, Adam Malik. I was 24 years old. I traveled in Jakarta in scooter and a becak. I don't know if you know about becak. It's a tricycle, a poor man in the back paddling. And a few times I turned around to look at the poor man. I felt sorry for him. But at the same time, I wouldn't want him to dump me in the middle of Jakarta. So I know ASEAN since then. No, as I mentioned in my remark, extraordinary development. The only thing that I wish they would cut would be there's so many meetings I understand, and no one able to tell me exactly how many meetings a year. I understand 1,300 meetings a year. And our officials, they love traveling. But by now, I think they are tired of it. And the same happened with the European Union. 27 countries. To reach a decision, it takes forever. And many in Europe lose patience with all these meetings. Well, the same in everybody has to feel consulted, to feel heard, everybody has to own initiative. So I don't think there is much more you can do or accelerate in the reform. Navigate smaller states, navigating a fragmented world. I think in general, smaller states have been doing pretty well. I just remember many, many years ago, maybe 30 years ago, in Geneva, I was a known entity. And there was another known entity, a young Somali diplomat. His country was totally bankrupted. And we both would meet every afternoon to have coffee at the Palais des Nations. And he told me, before the Cold War, during the Cold War, every time the West lectured us about human rights, democracy, we just would go to Moscow. But now we have nowhere to go, he said, because the Soviet Union failed. And that was 30 years plus ago. Time to time, I would think about this, my Somali friend. I don't know where he is. But you know, I wonder sometimes, since then, Soviet Union disappeared, but China emerged. So I thought maybe he's in China now. China became the alternative. So anyway, this is to say that's how small islands very smartly, wisely navigate. Solomon Islands, forgotten in the Pacific. Just because the Solomon Islands decide to have a few Chinese police to help them with their maritime security, suddenly Australia pay attention. Then people from Washington flew to Solomon Island, and Solomon Island was put in the map. Just because they wanted some Chinese police to help them with maritime security, to protect fisheries or whatever. So they've been doing very, very well in this regard. Myanmar, I think you asked about Myanmar. Well, the 5-point consensus is it is a solid principle, but at the same time to be practical. How can you address the problem of Myanmar? Like in every situation, those in power, those who exercise power, in this regard, the Tatmadaw, the war is going on. Seems like no one is going to win in the battlefront. It's a war of exhaustion, of ruining the whole country, the economy, and the people, the simple people, the farmers, the students, the youth are the ones suffering. Could they come together? All of them. Tatmadaw and all the leaders of the ethnic armies and the democratic opposition under attempt, no preconditions, no agenda, just meet as human beings. Then there might be a climate, then they start substantive conversation on how to improve the humanitarian situation, to allow unrestricted access by humanitarian agencies. Again, no political agenda. The military gesture of goodwill will release everybody from prison because these are their people. They are all the same country, maybe different ethnicity, different religion. And all of this guided by a prominent Southeast Asian individual. I would say a 4-star general or retired 4-star general. I did mediation in Guinea-Bissau, West Africa. It was not that simple. Guinea-Bissau isolated from the region. No, it was everybody was involved. And at time to time, I would ask the US side, can you send me a retired US general to help me talking to the military here? And they would do it. So you have to pick the right person for some specific moment to influence some specific people that you need to have on board.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, that best practice that you've enunciated is one that I hope many more people follow. I take away 4 thoughts from your presentation and your animated response to our young leaders' questions. In order to do mediation, you have to have sang-froid. You have to have strategic patience. You have to very much have a knowledge of history and possibly a little bit a sense of humor as well. Thank you very much for sharing all those qualities with us, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Dear delegates, dear ministers, welcome to the 4th plenary session of the 23rd ISS Shangri-La Dialogue. In this session, we will focus on the theme of addressing cross-regional security threats. One could say that that list of threats is indeed long, and it includes hybrid matters, major power competition, and the rise of non-state actors and regional conflicts. These security threats and their impact, as we discussed once or twice before today, are increasingly global in nature. Amid growing levels of instability and uncertainty, new approaches to cross-regional security cooperation will be required. And in this session, we will explore the evolving security landscape across different regions and, where possible, highlight opportunities for cross-regional collaboration to address some of these challenges. So let me welcome to the stage and to the session our three distinguished speakers. An Gil-bak, the Minister of National Defense of the Republic of Korea. Welcome, sir. Thank you for being here. To my left, we have Nurlan Yamakbayev, the Secretary General of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, with the SCO for the first time represented here in plenary session, and I'm really pleased that you're here. Thank you for being here. And last but certainly not least, Tore Sandvik, the Minister of Defense of Norway. So welcome to all three of you. Minister the Minister from Korea, we will start with you. If you can take the podium, please, you're welcome.
네, 여러분 반갑습니다.
Good morning. I'm An Gil-bak, the Minister of National Defense of the Republic of Korea. First, it is a pleasure to be at the Shangri-La Dialogue, a security forum of great history and tradition, with various military experts from around the world. I would also like to extend my special thanks to the Singaporean government officials present today, including the Minister of Defense, Chang Chung-sin. Now in its 23rd edition, the Shangri-La Dialogue has served as a platform of international security cooperation where defense leaders, military commanders, and security experts have brought global security issues to the fore and explored solutions extending well beyond the Asia-Pacific region. I believe this year's Shangri-La Dialogue, convened amid a grave security environment, is an occasion of great importance for our collective peace and security. I consider it a privilege to present this distinguished audience the Republic of Korea's defense policy against the recent security threats we face. We are now confronting an era of fragmentation in which the age of universal peace that continued after the Cold War is drawing to the close, and geopolitical conflicts have become a permanent feature of the landscape. The tensions in the South China Sea and the war in Ukraine continue to prolong, while strategic competition among major powers continues to intensify. The situation in the Middle East is also shifting by the day. The Strait of Hormuz, once a corridor of free navigation, has blockaded, and even civilian vessels are no longer exempt from the attack. Amid this security instability, the international community, which once championed solidarity and coexistence, is now embracing a new current of nation-first policies. The battlefield we are facing is also transforming at a rapid pace into one of invisible warfare and unmanned battlefields. With the full-scale military application of artificial intelligence, AI is now partaking in the decision-making process of war, and as the deployment of drones and robots become commonplace, a new paradigm of emotionless warfare is emerging. Furthermore, in recent conflicts, the growing prevalence of cyber and electronic warfare is blurring geopolitical boundaries. As the battlefield expands into the domains of space and cyberspace, the necessity for multi-domain operations is also significantly increasing. The Republic of Korea is also acutely experiencing the deepening security threats stemming from the shifting international landscape and the changing paradigm of warfare. North Korea is escalating tensions on the Korean Peninsula by solidifying its narrative of two hostile states and designating the Republic of Korea as its hostile state, all while continuously advancing its nuclear and missile capabilities. In addition, in a dangerous quid pro quo for its backing in Ukraine, North Korea is securing advanced Russian technology to overhaul its conventional military, an alarming development that is presenting new security challenges for the Korean Peninsula. Moreover, North Korean troops deployed to the conflicts are strengthening their modern warfare capabilities by accumulating real-world combat experience in drone operations, electronic warfare, and cyber warfare. The battlefields of Europe are now contributing to North Korea's military buildup, while advancement of Pyongyang's nuclear missile capability is triggering security and stability across the Indo-Pacific region. As the mutual interlinked structure between the Korean Peninsula and global security takes shape, the situation on the Korean Peninsula is functioning as a major variable in global security in every sense of term. Distinguished guest, given the deepening uncertainty in the international security environment and the paradigm shift of the battlefield today, we can no longer guarantee the peace and stability through the methods of the past. In this recognition, the Republic of Korea is pursuing three strategic directions.
First, the Republic of Korea will concurrently advance efforts to strengthen both the ROK-US alliance and our self-reliant national defense. While maintaining a robust ROK-US combined defense posture, our military is actively deriving the enhancement of independent capabilities necessary for ROK-led defense of the Korean Peninsula. We will further advance the Korean three-axis system to counter North Korean nuclear and missile threats and continue to deepen and develop extended deterrence cooperation with the United States. In addition, to respond to the new paradigm of the battlefield, we will foster a smart and strong military centered on AI-based detect and struct system, unmanned and manned teaming, and counter-drone defense system. Furthermore, we intend to continuously expand our cyber and space capabilities, which will be the core domains of future warfare. Through these self-reliance efforts based on cutting-edge technologies, the Republic of Korea aims to play a more leading role in the defense of the Korean Peninsula. Second, the Republic of Korea is strengthening solidarity with the international community through multidimensional security cooperation. Recognizing that today's geopolitical conflicts are no longer confined to specific nations, the Republic of Korea is expanding its role as a responsible member of the international community. Regarding the recent threats faced in the Strait of Hormuz, our government considers the guarantee of freedom of navigation based on international law across major sea lines of communication to be of paramount importance. Accordingly, our government is participating in various international efforts for the security in the Strait of Hormuz and is actively reviewing viable contribution measures in consideration of domestic laws. Furthermore, the Republic of Korea has been expanding strategic security cooperation by actively engaging in various multilateral mechanisms within the Indo-Pacific, a pivotal region for global security, politics, and the economy. Moreover, building upon combat-proven technology, we are sustaining mutually beneficial defense industrial cooperation with key partners in the region. This represents a high level of defense cooperation that goes beyond merely providing timely deliveries of completed weapon system. It encompasses joint development, joint production, and follow-on logistics support, empowering our partner nations to establish their own independent defense industrial bases. Through these efforts, we are strengthening interoperability with regional partners, thereby further solidifying our shared foundation to counter trans-regional threats. Third, recognizing that maintaining stability on the Korean Peninsula is directly linked to global peace, we remain firmly committed to efforts for peaceful coexistence on the peninsula. As Sun Tzu's The Art of War portrays, hence to fight and conquer in all your battles is not supreme excellence. Supreme excellence consists in breaking the enemy's resistance without fighting. Guided by this wisdom, the Republic of Korea will realize the firm principle that peace on the Korean Peninsula, where there is no need for conflict, is the most reliable guarantee of security. Accordingly, while maintaining a robust deterrence to neutralize any North Korean threat, our military will steadfastly back the Korean Peninsula peaceful coexistence policy, laying the foundation for sustainable peace through inter-Korean dialogue. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, the world today is closely interconnected more than ever before. Just as global community is one family, In the face of today's security threats, no nation can remain safe in isolation. In such a security environment, prepared deterrence forges peace, interconnected solidarity thwarts threats. As a responsible member of the international community, the Republic of Korea will work together with our partners to realize humanity's shared goal of peace and stability through crisis management of the Korean Peninsula, as well as regional cooperation and solidarity. I look forward to continuing our discussion on concrete and constructive measures with all of you at the Seoul Defense Dialogue this coming September. Thank you for your attention.
Minister Ahn, thank you very much for your remarks and outlining the expanding set of issues that you're dealing with. And of course, the ISS very much hopes that we can be a good partner in that conversation. As many of you know, the ISS was able to establish a Korea chair at the ISS in London earlier this year to work on issues of advanced technology and security and defense, among others. And we're looking forward to making more contributions of that kind. Secretary General, if I can invite you, please, to take the floor and take to the podium. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Dr. Figurik, ladies and gentlemen. I wish to thank the International Institute for Strategic Studies for invitation extended to me to represent the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, or SCO, in this year's Shangri-La Dialogue. It is a good opportunity for us to share some views of our member states on the current international situation and on the SCO as organization in general. I agree with today's statements that modern world is undergoing a period.
Máxima limpieza, máxima protección. Copec, combustibles con estándar Top Tier Plus.
Multiplying, and the nature of conflicts is changing. And the United Nations Charter is being systematically violated. We witness a serious crisis of trust in international scale, accompanied by a weakening of global governance institutions, attempts to diminish the role of the United Nations. Along with this, Global South countries emphasize the need to create alternative forms of interaction. In these conditions, the role of regional organizations continues to steadily increase, with a greater responsibility falling on their shoulders for the affairs in their regions. The SCO's task as the largest trans-regional organization is to adapt to changing world and to contribute to peace and development of its member states. While some choose to pursue security through exclusive multilateral arrangements, the SCO remains committed to a more representative, democratic, and multipolar world order based on the central coordinating role of the UN. The SCO is now a comprehensive trans-regional organization representing 10 member states, covering 25% of world landmass, almost half of the world's population, and almost a quarter of the world's GDP. SCO is not a military bloc. It is clearly stated in our charter and foundational declarations, and moreover, the SCO is not directed against any state or international organization. We do not maintain collective security principles, nor do we seek to ensure our own security at the expense of others. The SCO's activities are based on the principle of mutual respect for sovereignty, independence, territorial integrity of states, and inviolability of state borders, non-interference in internal affairs, non-use or threat of use of force in international relations. All these principles, including equality, solving all the issues through consultations, respect for cultural diversity, are enshrined in Shanghai Spirit, so-called Code of Principles. And we follow a unique model where there is no dominance of any single party and no elements of pressure. Every decision is reached through consensus only. This model rejects the bloc-based mentality, advocating for the peaceful resolution of disputes. And bilateral relations between our member countries, as well as their relations with the third countries, are not brought to the official meetings of the SCO. Dear colleagues, in SCO we understand security comprehensively. Starting from the very foundation of the SCO, we have always prioritized our joint efforts to counter the three forces of evil, as we call them. It is terrorism, separatism, and extremism. At the first summit in 2001, we adopted Shanghai Convention on combating terrorism, separatism, and extremism. And in this sphere, SCO countries exchange information between competent authorities through the specialized SCO regional anti-terrorist structure and conduct regular exercises and operations. The SCO joint anti-terrorist exercise Peaceful Mission have been regularly held in SCO member states since 2003. Our member states also initiate other activities in this sphere. As an example, Sahand Anti-Terror 2025 anti-terrorist exercise took place in December 2025 in Iran. Such exercises contribute to the development of practical skills in conducting military operations against terrorist groups. We pay special attention to strengthening security of state borders and countering cross-border threats. The SCO has also achieved significant success on anti-drug track. An anti-drug strategy is being implemented, and it has laid a solid foundation for countering the drug threat emanating from Afghanistan. Over the past 25 years, SCO member states' actions against narcotic trafficking have led to seizure of significant amount of heroin and marijuana across Eurasia. Most notable mechanisms here is the international anti-drug operation codenamed WEB. The most recent one was conducted in August last year across the member countries, and as a result, more than 9 tons of narcotic substances and more than 21 tons of precursors were confiscated. Participants, today we are modernizing the system of countering challenges and threats with establishment of Universal Center to counter challenges and threats in Tashkent. Furthermore, we are institutionalizing our response to transnational threats through new specialized hubs, Anti-Drug Center in Dushanbe and Center to Combat Transnational Organized Crime in Bishkek, and Center for International Information Security. We are consistently expanding dialogue on defense cooperation. We hold annual meetings of the defense ministers of the SCO member countries, and the most recent one taking place in April this year in Kyrgyzstan. Cooperation in the area of cybersecurity was launched in 2006, and the SCO opposes militarization of the information and communication technologies. My time is running out, so I will try to be shorter. I would like to mention that SCO cannot remain indifferent to conflicts that destabilize the global order. The main instrument of expressing our reaction is political statements, and our leaders expressed deep concern over escalation of the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. We advocate for Afghanistan that is independent, neutral, and free from terrorism and drugs. And organization has issued several statements regarding the situation on the territory of the Islamic Republic of Iran, particularly calling for resolution of differences exclusively through peaceful means, based on consideration of the legitimate interests of all parties. On strategic stability, SCO member states view the unilateral and unrestricted build-up of global anti-missile defense system as a threat to international security. We call for the preservation of outer space as a weapons-free zone. I am finishing my statement, although we have much more to say, but thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much. Secretary General, thank you very much, and you will have time in our Q&A session to perhaps touch on one or two other items, and I think it might be interesting to talk a little bit more about how the current conflict involving Iran might influence the organization as you're heading towards the summit later this summer. That would be perhaps one of the themes to explore later on. May I invite the Minister from Norway to take the podium, please? Welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished delegates, it is an honor to address this esteemed gathering. We meet today in a world which is becoming increasingly dangerous, fragmented, and decoupled. However, I would argue that the world is at the same time growing increasingly interconnected. Threats once considered geographically distant now travel rapidly across oceans, supply chains, and strategic dependencies. Geopolitical tensions, the conflict in Ukraine, the Middle East, and others have direct implications for our common security, global trade, energy supplies, and technological flows. Meanwhile, the Euro-Atlantic and the Indo-Pacific theaters have become inseparable. North Korean soldiers are fighting on European soil in support of the Russian war of aggression against Ukraine. Direct and indirect military support to the Russian war machine increases the threat posed by Russia to the Euro-Atlantic region. In my intervention today, I will focus on the maritime domain as a source of global security challenges, but also as a source of opportunity and connectivity. Norway may be located on the other side of the globe, but while vast areas of land separate us, the oceans tie us together. A container ship leaving Asia for Europe sails through the waters that link our economies. Energy and gas produced in the Norwegian Sea contributes to stability far beyond Europe's borders. And Norwegian seafood meets palates across much of this region. Technology developed in Singapore, Seoul, or Tokyo is applied on vessels in the Arctic. What happens in the Hormuz Strait, the South China Sea, or the Arctic affects us all. Across regions, we observe the same pattern: military modernization and expanded naval activity, pressure on freedom of navigation, illegal and unregulated activities at sea, and the increasing overlap between economic security and national security. Like many of the countries present here today, Norway is a maritime nation, and our history has been fundamentally shaped by the sea. As a canvas for the first Viking voyages, a basis for centuries of trade in fish, through shipbuilding industries to the discovery of vast oil and gas reserves deep down in the Norwegian Sea. Today, the oceans remain an essential part of Norwegian security and economy. The Norwegian merchant fleet is among the largest in the world. Our exclusive economic zone provides energy, fish, and sea lines of communication that are crucial not only to Norway, but to partners across the globe. Our seabed hosts extensive submarine fiber optic cables, oil and gas pipelines, and power cables to continental Europe. Norway bears a substantial responsibility as one of the most important oil and gas providers to Europe. And importantly, our vast Arctic waters anchor our role as NATO's eyes and ears in the high north. This enables us to monitor the world's largest nuclear arsenal, located 100 kilometers from the Norwegian border at the Kola Peninsula. We take this responsibility very seriously. Norway is therefore stepping up our efforts on security and defense. Let me highlight three key pillars of our approach with relevance to the maritime domain. Norway's defense spending is currently at 3.3% of GDP. Norway's defense spending has nearly doubled since 2021, with a plan to double the spending again towards 2035 through a long-term spending plan for the armed forces. As a maritime nation, we have placed special priority on renewing our navy. This includes new submarines and frigates, as well as new standardized blue water and coastal defense vessels for the Navy and the Coast Guard. We are investing in space capabilities that will enhance our real-time situational awareness in our maritime neighborhood and beyond. We have also adapted innovative solutions, such as autonomous uncrewed maritime systems, to protect our critical infrastructure on the sea. Hence, Norway is committed in its efforts to meet a more challenging security situation, support the new transatlantic burden shift, and strengthen the overall European defense capabilities within the maritime domain and beyond. Secondly, Norway continues to strengthen our bilateral cooperation with partners in the Indo-Pacific region. As NATO remains the bedrock of Norwegian security, we are welcoming the deepening cooperation between NATO and its 4 Indo-Pacific partners. Together, we are not only increasing information sharing and political dialogue, but also deepening our practical cooperation. This cooperation has already yielded tangible results, including within cyber defense, countering disinformation, responsible use of AI, and support to Ukraine's legitimate defense against Russian aggression. As Europe is rearming, facing the increased threat from Russia, Norway also looks to Asian markets. Norway procures systems from South Korea, export missile systems to Japan and Australia, and collaborates on missile production in Australia. These exchanges strengthen interoperability, technological innovation, and security across regions. And third, Norway has a strong focus on training, exercising, integrating, and operating with close partners. This was a central motivation for our participation with a frigate throughout the deployment of a UK-led carrier strike group to the Indo-Pacific last year. The 8-month mission spanned over 40,000 nautical miles and integrated with vessels from 11 different countries. The task group conducted exercises, operations, and port visits across the Indo-Pacific region. The deployment produced concrete results in interoperability. The Norwegian participation also demonstrated Norway's strong commitment to international law, open trade routes, and freedom of navigation at sea. These principles apply across all seas, from the Arctic to the Indo-Pacific, ensuring that even the most remote regions are governed by rules, not power. From the cold Arctic waters to the seas of the Indo-Pacific, the oceans form a vital artery of trade, transport, and energy and security. The challenges we face are complex, but the opportunities are equally immense. By safeguarding our oceans, investing in innovation, and deepening cooperation across Europe and Asia, we secure not only our nations, but the stability of a truly interconnected world. Thank you for your attention.
Minister, thank you very much for your remarks. We now have a good 40 minutes or so for debate. There's a long list of people who are now seeking the floor, so we will, like we have before, take a group of questions and then return to the panel for responses. And we'll start this round with Robert Ward from the United Kingdom. Robert.
Thank you, Bastian. A question for National Defence Minister Ahn, if I may. Security relations between the Republic of Korea and Japan have been deepening. Recently, momentum. Where do you see the most promising areas for further expanding and deepening ROK-Japan security cooperation? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Robert. We'll take a group. Next question, please, from the Young Leaders Group and from Cambodia, Siriat Chen.
My question is addressed to Minister An Gyubek. In your remarks, you mentioned that AI is now part of the process for decision-making in war. And as a Minister of National Defense, you do have a unique academic background in Eastern philosophy. So my question is, what can we learn from Eastern philosophy for global AI leadership in the context of security and defense? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we take from Germany, Tim Arnold de Almeida. Tim.
Thank you very much. My question goes to Secretary General Yamakbayev. Thank you for outlining the noble principles of the SCO. Certainly, especially your own country and the countries of Central Asia can be bridge builders between different geographical and geopolitical influence spheres. You also mentioned your member Iran and your decision to conduct an activity in Iran that was dedicated to the fight against terrorism. What did you learn from Iran about the fight against terrorism, and what could maybe the world learn from Iran?
Thank you very much. And from Malaysia and the Young Leaders Group, Joanna Henley-Rampas.
This session is titled Addressing Cross-Regional Security Threats, and I want to address this question to all of the panelists. And in this context, I would like to invite some reflection on how our understanding of security continues to evolve in response to challenging facing our region. Now, issues such as supply chain disruption, technological concentration and climate change increasingly transcend national borders in both their causes and consequences. And their effects are felt not only economic resilience, but also in governance and social cohesion and also long-term stability across Southeast Asia. Now, from Sabah, Malaysia, Borneo, one of the security concerns I see most clearly in it is not conventional military threat, but the weakening of economic and social conditions that support the stable communities and effective governance. And my question is this: do our existing regional security architectures, whether ASEAN-led mechanism or broader Indo-Pacific framework, adequately recognize development resilience and economic concerns as core security concerns? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we'll have from the United Kingdom, Fenella McCurdy.
Thank you, Bastian. My question is for Minister Sandvik. Are you concerned that others across Europe do not have a similar framework to Norway, where there is a long-term plan for defence spending, for the armed forces and for capability development? And without those frameworks across Europe, does that make it difficult for further cooperation and risk that the increased investment that we're seeing across the region isn't coordinated and can potentially be spent inefficiently? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we take from Indonesia and the Young Leaders Group, Rizky Wahyudi.
Thank you, Gurgerit. My question is addressed for Secretary General. Many studies evaluate counterterrorism effectiveness primarily in operational terms. However, my research suggests that different governance configurations such as military-led, civilian-led, or multilateral coordination models like the ACOs has regional anti-terrorist structure, produce trade-off across operational performance, legitimacy, and institutional sustainability. My question is, from your perspective, how does the SCO conceptualize counterterrorism success, and how does RATS balance these different dimensions in practice? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll take two more in this round from the United States. Ankit Panda. Ankit.
Thank you, Bastian. Minister An, I'd like to ask you a little bit about growing nuclear dynamics in the broader Indo-Pacific region. You, of course, spoke about the Korean Peninsula specifically. I was wondering if you could share with us a little bit about the progress within the U.S. ROK alliance of the nuclear consultative group that was set up in 2023. What is that group currently looking at? And in more general terms, given that South Korea, Japan, Australia are three major treaty allies of the United States in this region, would South Korea support greater minilateral conversations among the United States and our Indo-Pacific allies on broader questions pertaining to nuclear risks? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And finally, in this round, from China, Jian Zhao.
Thank you. My question towards Minister An of South Korea. You mentioned in your speech about full-scale application of AI in the military domain. As we are seeing more and more incidents caused by AI in warfare, either in Gaza or Ukraine, could you explain more on what South Korea has done and will be doing to ensure the responsible use of AI in the military domain? And also, do you have more plan to push forward the re-aim process after South Korea successfully hosted the re-aim summit in 2024? Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we return to the panel. We go in reverse order. So Mr. Sandvik, I'll start with you. There are two themes for you, security architecture and European defense plans. If you could engage those and add any other points you'd like.
Well, the questions from UK. Norway has a long-term defense plan going to 2036, and now we are rebalancing it for 2040. It's in the parliament and the discussion is going on right now. We don't see that as a challenge that other parties in Europe don't have the same length of their. A lot of them have long-term pledges, and we are engaged bilaterally with them and multilaterally with them. And all of us are in according to the NATO plan. So we are defending Europe according to NATO plans. And we are in Norway now, we have managed to make 3 bilateral defense agreements with UK, with Germany, and with France just lately. And we are developing this further. What we know is that we have to step up in Europe. And when Europe is spending more money, we have to not only spend more money, but spend it smarter. So we're integrating and we're standardizing and we're building industrial capacity. And as I also mentioned, we are also using the industrial capacity in the Indo-Pacific, buying from South Korea in Norway, but also importing licenses to set up factories in Europe producing. And of course, we will still continue the close cooperation with US in these matters.
Thank you very much. Secretary General, over to you.
Thank you. I see that 3 questions are similar to each other, related nature, touching upon terrorism and counterterrorism activities of the SCO. Oh, I would like to say that in the SCO we have a specialized body, as I've said, anti-terrorist structure. It is quite autonomous, similar to specialized institutions of the United Nations. And that's why the main work on this track, anti-terrorist track, is done by regional anti-terrorist structure. We just, the Secretariat of the whole SCO, we provide general political coordination of these activities. But what is important that member states of the SCO come to common views on how to counter terrorism, and in the SCO we managed to work out a single common definition and understanding what is terrorism, which as far as we know, no other international organizations has managed to do. And that is a good foundation for cooperation between member states in terms of, first of all, exchange of information, coordination of their efforts and operations, and the anti-terrorist structure maintains a database on the criminal figures and personalities, and those who may be linked to international terrorist groups and extremism. That enables a very operative exchange of information and well-coordinated operations by the member states in their national capacity, because the major operative and practical work is done by national competent agencies. Also, it is worth mentioning that SCO is cooperating and in maintaining close contact with the United Nations Counterterrorism Department, exchanging views and holding joint events with the United Nations Office for Drugs and Crime, and we regularly hold anti-terrorist exercises, anti-drug exercises, and joint operations. And also, member states noted coming to security, regional security issue, ASEAN, Indo-Pacific. Member states, the heads of member states noted initiatives of some of our member countries to establish a new Eurasian architecture of Eurasian security, which means that the most issues of security in Eurasia should be solved by Eurasian countries. And member states are now working on that and considering this initiative. That means that we are open to cooperation with ASEAN, with ESCAP, other regional institutions and organizations. And the other important thing with counterterrorism is that all these events and structures which are in SCO, they enable quite different countries with different systems to work out common approaches to terrorism, to counterterrorism, and to have personal contacts between the competent agencies, which enable them to be more effective and to enhance their capacity. If I didn't answer all the questions, I can.
We'll take a few more. So there's always another opportunity. Minister Ahn, if I may turn to you, you have received a number of questions directed to you. Please, over to you for your answers.
Yeah, this is the MINDEF of the Republic of Korea, An Yu-baek. I think I'm popular given that I've been given so many questions. First of all, regarding the issue of the Republic of Korea and Japan's development, I will give you an answer on how the potential of our relationship. With the powerful leadership of President Lee, the Republic of Korea and Japan have been going through a lot of exchanges in various domains, including our culture and others. And that has been that has been also contributive in the fostering the peace and stability in the Korean region. And I believe that the relationship between the two countries will further develop in the future. And regarding the second question on the AI, I would like to answer the two questions on the AI altogether. Regarding the question on philosophy, I believe that philosophy is all about broadening our scope of understanding and our vision and our thoughts. Regarding the utilization of AI, I believe that the value of the dignity of human species, our dignity, our value, must be forethought before we talk about the applications of AI. As a Minister of National Defense, that's the personal thought I have. And the next question from Malaysia. I do not believe that security is limited to a particular country, and I believe that it's an interconnected web, and therefore the friendship and the relationship between each countries and the region are extremely imperative, and therefore no region or country could be separated from one another. Now that we are entering the 5th year of the Russian-Ukrainian war, North Korea's participation in the Russian-Ukrainian war have also assisted on the protraction of the war. And quid pro quo, North Korea has been receiving technology transfer and information sharing through Russia. I do not believe that this is not merely restricted to the region of Asia, and this also poses a threat in the European region as well. And therefore, it emerges as a threat that we all need to resolve. And therefore, I believe that it emerges as a problem, interconnected problem that must be solved together. And regarding the question on the nuclear consultative group, the NCG is operating on various domains in order for us to foster the extended deterrence between the ROC and US alliance. And the cooperation between the two countries are consolidating and improving. And through the conventional and nuclear integration of CNI, we are further improving the system and updating it. And through working group consultations, we're also developing improvements.
We will collect a second round, and we'll start with Daniel Salisbury from the United Kingdom. Daniel.
Thank you, Bastian. I have a question for Minister Ahn. You mentioned North Korean troops deployed to the battlefields of Europe. I wondered, could you share some of the most important lessons that the Republic of Korea has learned from observing this deployment? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we'll have from Japan, Wakana Asano.
Thank you, Bastian. My question is to all of the panels, and I have two. One is that I've been hearing that there are a couple threats that all of the panels share. For example, cyber, AI, supply chain disruption, and energy, space, technology. And my first question is that what are the challenges to seek for the cooperation, multilateral cooperation, cross-regional cooperation in these potential threats? And then what needs to be done? And then my second question is about Africa. I see a couple of delegations from African continent this year to this Shangri-La dialogue. And then given that this session is titled as Cross-Regional Security Threats, and then also you mentioned a couple of the potential maybe commonalities such as supply chain and whatever. So I'd like to hear what's your prospect for the relationship or engagement in terms of the security or non-traditional security issues with African region. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And we take from the Young Leaders Group and from Malaysia, Felina Said.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the enlightening session. The first question I have is actually for Minister Ahn. It's on AI as well, and it's on the value chain. AI value chain is actually based on interdependence. So what is Korea's strategy to address dependence in this space? This is actually to the minister from SEO, because some parts of the terrorism trend has actually turned to disparate and is shaped by the information age, sometimes named the nihilistic form of terrorism. What are the challenges in collective action for this? And can I actually get your views on the way forward? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. From the Philippines, Dara Ioy.
Thank you, Bastian. For Defense Minister Ahn, sir, this is also a question related to AI. But how does the ROK intend to incorporate the use of AI in your multi-domain capabilities to pursue peace in the Korean Peninsula and the region as a whole? And this is for the SCO. How is the SCO leading in the efforts to make space a weapons-free zone? And what are the challenges that you have encountered so far in pursuit of your ongoing efforts to this goal? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And from the Netherlands, Maya Nouwens.
Thank you very much, Bastian. I promise that Dara and I didn't coordinate this, but my question is also about space. a lot of talk today has been about gray zone challenges in the maritime domain, but I also wonder whether the three speakers could speak to the challenges in the gray zone challenges rather in the outer space domain. Here, actors are inherently both civilian and state-led and military. Technology is inherently dual use, and this is a domain that all of us increasingly view as strategic and depend on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And from the Republic of Korea, Dong-Yun Cho.
Thank you, Bastian. My question goes to two ministers. As cyber, artificial intelligence, and quantum capabilities increasingly cut across regions, so from your perspective, what level of practical information and standard sharing between Asian and European partners do you see as a realistic near-term goal? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And from the Young Leaders Group and from Vietnam, Kak Yang Nguyen.
Thank you, Bastian. I have a question for Secretary General Jeremy Bayev. How does the mechanism of conflict resolution work in practice for the SCO? Do you think that the SCO did enough in solving the conflict between two of its member states, India and Pakistan? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And from China, Wanjia Liu.
Thank you, Chair. My question is for Deputy Prime Minister. As transatlantic partnerships evolve, the United States has proposed reassessing NATO's role. What does this mean for the alliance? How do you see NATO's future development trends? Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I'll take two more and then we'll return to the panel. From the United Kingdom, John Rain.
Thank you, Bastian. Given the challenges that all multilateral organizations now face in solving conflicts, could I ask members of the panel to comment whether they welcome the arrival of the Board of Peace or whether they see that as multilateralism that we don't need?
Thank you very much. And from India, Vipratrap Vikram Singh.
Thank you, Bastian. My question is for the panel. Both South Korea and Norway have faced cyberspace incidents that have been claimed by hacktivist groups. Notably, Norway's critical infrastructure was disrupted by a hacktivist group. With these groups operating across borders, is there an opportunity for cross-regional collaboration to counter and combat them? And what role might international organizations like the SCO play in dealing with these threats? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll take one more from the Young Leaders Group and from Australia, Vanessa Wong.
Hi, I have a question for the whole panel. If economic coercion and leverage is becoming a regularly used tool for strategic competition, should defence ministries focus and shape economic resilience as a core national security mission? How do you balance that against the growing defence budgets, and are our institutions structured and equipped for that challenge?
Thank you very much. So let's take these and return to the panel. Minister Sandvik, if I can ask you again to kick us off, and then we'll work our way through the panel. You have a bunch of issues that were put in front of you. Over to you.
Well, thank you. A bunch of issues, yes. First of all, let me start from the last speaker. Energy is security policy. Food is security policy. Economics is security policy. So every aspect of society is a part of security policy. And that's why we also are here, because the butterfly effect not only affects weather conditions. We know that a diminishing security situation in the Indo-Pacific or in the South Americas or in Africa also affects us. We can see now the closing of the Hormuz Strait is affecting all over the world, both in the food chains, in energy conditions, cost of living, which goes into our societies and destabilizing it, more polarization from it. So all this is a part of discussing security aspects. Therefore, also, we are engaged from the defense sector to stabilize the world order in a way that we can still prosper and have economic growth in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Secretary General, if I can turn to you next. There were a few points for you about how the SCO does conflict resolution, how the mechanisms in practice work. One question was specifically on India and Pakistan and SCO in that context. A second question was on whether the SCO is leading any efforts with regards to space and space as a weapons-free zone, and what challenges the SCO might feel it encounters there. And you were invited to also expand perhaps a little more on the counterterrorism element of your remarks. There were a few more, but maybe there's the Africa angle, and how far does that concern the SCO, and how do you engage? If you have thoughts on the Board of Peace, we're also happy to hear those.
Well, as have been mentioned today and yesterday during bilateral meetings, and today during sessions, panel sessions, such challenges as terrorism, as drug trafficking and organized crime have become really transnational. That is the first point which we have agreed upon among member states. That's why multilateral coordination, multilateral cooperation is very important. And that is just what we are doing in the SCO. And one feature of the SCO is that we approach security in general and countering terrorism in particular in complex way. Means that we see it as indispensable from solving social economic issues. That's why today, if we look at the number of events and activities, those in the sphere of economy, in the sphere of investment, transportation, employment, alleviating poverty, they may be even more numerous in numbers than those in counterterrorism sphere. It means complex approach to security, to countering terrorism. We see the threats of so-called non-traditional challenges. That is why, according to the decision of our heads of state, we are modernizing the overall system of countering challenges and threats, and the regional anti-terrorist structure will be a universal center for countering challenges and threats. The decision has been made, and now the procedural work is going on. It means that its mandate will be expanded and embrace not only terrorism, separatism, and extremism, but also border control, also countering countering cybercrimes, countering transnational organized crime, and there is an independent specialized body, anti-drug center, which will be also working within the SCO framework. Regarding Africa, I would like to say that it's also regarding these bilateral conflicts among some countries, or even some issues among member states. I would like to underline that we have a rule in the SCO that bilateral issues are not being discussed at the official meetings of the SCO. That's why such issues are not on the agenda of the SCO, as well as some issues concerning or regarding a relationship between member countries and the third countries, or conflicts of our member countries with the third countries. They are not disputed or discussed at the SCO platform unless there is a proposal by one of the member countries which is supported by all other member countries on the basis of consensus. That's why today African countries cooperate closely with the SCO member countries in bilateral way, but we do not yet cooperate with Africa as an organization. The same I can say about some conflicts which we have cited not even conflicts, but we should say issues, which need solution. I think
so. An SCO, just to clarify that, an SCO member state could raise this issue, bring it to the other member states for discussion. If all of them agree, then it can be discussed, but there's no automatic mechanism to raise it otherwise. That's correct? Yeah. Okay.
Regarding the question of space,
there's an outer space question, the challenge of dual-use technology, whether that is something that the SCO grapples with.
Yeah, as I've said in my short statement, we have a declaration and a statement by the heads of state that the SCO member countries stand for the outer space free of weapons. It is very important that our member countries, which may have different views on different international issues, they have come to this common view on outer space free of weapons. The further practical actions may be taken at the level of experts. It's subject to discussion, further discussion. We didn't take any practical measures in this direction yet.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. Ahn, you again got a large number of questions, so please work your way through responses to those questions. Over to you.
Regarding the lessons that the North Koreans have gained from participating from the Russian and Ukrainian war, I believe that they're gaining know-hows from their real combat experience. And I believe that they're also gaining new technologies for their strategy and tactics. And from this real combat experience, I believe that they're modernizing their strategic and weapon systems and developing their weapon systems to a higher level. And so they're getting technology transfer from Russia, and they're also receiving funds and technology, creating and formulating more weapon systems such as drones and submarines, and also gaining know-hows in terms of how to use them. They're also experimenting them in real time, and I believe that they are creating a technology of their own to improve their military strategies. And regarding the multinational cooperation for cyber energy, I believe that the world today is more than interconnected than ever, and the world works as a one. In the Middle East, there's ongoing wars that are continuously developing. And now we are facing an environment in which no country is safe from war, and it's cross-regional. And therefore, the world today is intertwined like a cobweb, and no country is safe. And therefore, the regional cooperation and friendship is absolutely imperative. Regarding the AI question from the Philippines, I believe that we're transcending the traditional aspect of the AI, and we're now moving into a warfare in which it is not able to be thought through because of its sophisticated development of AI and cyberspace. And I believe that in such a country that values democracy and freedom, value of freedom, I believe that through mutual cooperation with our allies and partnership countries, we will be able to offset those ways to mitigate them. Regarding the question from India, you mentioned that cyberspace is